I didn't do the thing you say I do. Oh, Mr. Liar Man. Joe Rastafari, King Selassie, big up, oh Mr. Liar Man, oh Mr. Liar Man, oh Mr. Liar Man, oh Mr. Liar Man. You know I didn't do the thing you say I do. Oh, Mr. Liar Man. Oh, Liar Man, you know. Liar Man, you know. I didn't do those things. Oh, Mr. Liar Man. God, no. I didn't do those things. Oh, Mr. Liar Man. Mr. Liar Man. Rastafari, no. I didn't do. Oh, Mr. Liar Man, you know, a liar man, a liar man, a liar man, a liar man, oh, Mr. Liar Man, you know I didn't do the thing you say I do, oh, Mr. Liar Man, Rastafari, King Selassie, big up, I didn't do this. Liar man, let Jah judge you. Liar man, I didn't do it. Liar man, let Jah judge you. So what you keep lying? Lie, 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 lie. You lie, you lie, you lie. Oh, Mr. Liar Man, oh, Mr. Liar Man. I say you lie, you lie. Oh, Mr. Liar Man, Mr. Liar Man. Hey, oh, Mr. Liar Man. In my own country, they're trying to track me down. Trying to track me down. For what? I don't know. Oh, Mr. Liar Man, you know.
Smile for me, even if you sad. Be good to me, even if you bad. got some place to be. Pray with me, even if you know believe. Smile for me, baby me please. Smile up. I want to be the one way you die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Lie to me if the truth will break my heart too. Sing for me even though your voice they crackle. Dance with me even if you're dancing off the beat. Take a chance on me, don't you believe I'm worth the risk? Smile for me, baby me please. Smile. I want to be the one way you die for. I want to be the one that makes you do that
Good
thing.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is our seventh edition of Election Central. Sorry, we are a few minutes behind. We've been encountering a little bit technical issues here. I hope we have taken care of it. Well, today we're going to be our main theme today is celebrity presidents, and we've chosen the president of Liberia and the former president of Haiti. We have chosen that because they have a huge similarity. We're going to get into the details of that when we do the intro for that key subject that we're going to discuss today. But before that, we'd like to do an overview of some of the key things that have happened in Liberia relative to elections and governance issue. So, as you may know, the voters registration formally started last week using a biometric system. Hope we have an expert on the biometrics with us today, but his schedule didn't allow us. But they're now capturing bio data, fingerprints, and the registration. Even though it started a little slow, as picking up. The idea is that the next voters roll may be more authentic because, according to the supporters of this system, it will prevent the incidence of double registration, since each person now have a unique identifier, which is their fingerprint, and there will be no way that one person will be registered twice. But that process is still going on for the first few counties. And in spite of speculations and suspicions that we all had, at least we see that that is well on the road. Um, the other thing that I would like to talk about is there's a case before the Supreme Court uh, brought up by the CPP. And the cross of the case is that the CPP is asking the court to mandate the Elections Commission to use the census data to do redistricting for this purpose of this registration and then for elections. I don't know the merit or the validity of it. I think the legal experts will be discussing it. I know it has been argued already before the Supreme Court. Considering that these census results were called to question by many quarters, it surprises me that somebody will be asking that it be used to do redistricting. So I'm going to bring on my guests, and then maybe we'll go into a little more discussion on the two issues. The third issue that we wanted to overview is the most secretive of all the issues. The president of Liberia, after having been visited by the director of the CIA in Liberia about a month ago, William Burns, the president was invited to CIA headquarters in Virginia. Uh, Yet there's no official narrative about what the meeting was about and what was discussed. There's speculations here and there. So maybe we'll discuss some of the speculations that are coming up. And then lastly, the probably happiest issue that we will report is that the Lone Star had gone to South Africa on Friday to honor the first leg of the uh, Cup of Nations qualifiers with South Africa. I can be frank with you, a lot of us didn't think that they would come out with any result, but as God will have it, they came from behind and took a 2-all draw from South Africa. So next week, Tuesday, or this week, on Tuesday the 28th, South Africa is going to go to Monrovia, and we're not hopeful that they more than likely will fall to the Lone Star, allowing us to have a chance to the African Cup of Nations this 2023. So that's a good news. Now, I'd like to introduce my guest, Ikena Wesley. He's here in the States. He's a political pundit. He was a former director of communications at the Ministry of State in the office of the President of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and also speechwriter. So I'm going to bring him in and allow him to introduce himself. So,
Hey, Cyrus.
Mr. Wesley, the first thing I want to ask you, am I audible?
Very well, yeah. Very well.
Okay, welcome to Election Central, man. Happy to have you here. If you could just say a little bit about yourself, then I would like us to go into these introductory 4 items that I just talked about before we started the main discussions of our show today. President, celebrity presidents dealing with Haiti and Liberia. So welcome. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much indeed for the opportunity. Uh, I'm delighted that we are back at election central again since 2017. You and I.
This is election year.
That's correct. And then given the serious impact election central made to our 2017 polls, uh, I'm happy that you're back here. Given experience, you focus essentially on facts against fallacies and misinformation, and then to a larger extent, you sort of directed voters in the line of thought that it was all about country rather than individuals or personalities, as it were. Well, I come from a background of journalism in Liberia, and like Cyrus has already said, I had the opportunity to serve Madam Sally as Director of Communications. Um, for those who follow Cyrus very closely, objectivity has informed and occasioned the conduct of his perspective. And so we're delighted that he's giving us an opportunity to be here to contribute towards the greater good.
Thank you, Akina. Now, while I have you, we came in a little few minutes behind. Sorry about that, but we had some technical issues here. All of a sudden, yesterday, one of the main computers we use here just refused to come on. So we had to send it back thinking we're gonna get another one, but we didn't get it in time. So we are improvising. That's why I asked whether you could get me clearer. And thank God you say you can hear me. So I hope
Let the folks sing like brother loud and clear.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad that our audience is hearing it because in the first few programs we had, we used the same system and it seemed that we didn't tweak it enough, so there were complaints about the audio. So good. So what I thought to do in the first few minutes before we get to our main issue of celebrity presidents, I wanted us to have a brief discussion on 4 issues. One, the fourth issue is really not a discussion. It was just news about the good thing that came out of Africa on Friday with Lone Star taking the draw away from home. So let's say 3 issues. The elections voters registration process, which has started already. A case before the Supreme Court relative to elections from the CPP. I think the crust of the case is that they are asking the Supreme Court to mandate the National Elections Commission to use the results of the recently held census to inform the voters registration and thereby the elections. I don't whether by redistricting and all that. I I I will leave it to you to have your say because I don't want to express my opinion on that. And then the issue of the secret dealings between the president of Liberia and the CIA. As you know, you work in the president's office. This is out of precedence in our history, and I don't remember that of the history of any country for the United States. Rather than working through the State Department that deals with foreign governments, we have the director of CIA directly engage the president of a sovereign country. So again, I said we stay in the dark about the purpose of this meeting and what obtained in the meeting, but you're free to throw light on it. You can choose any of the three issues, which way you want to start.
Sarah, you will recall that a group of opposition parties led by the Unity Party went on the Capitol to petition lawmakers to consider null and void the recent census.
I recall that sometime last week also.
Yeah, that's correct. On the heels of that, the CPP went running to the Supreme Court that we cannot proceed with the conduct of an election in the absence of demarcation exercises that will inform the latest census data regarding constituencies, redemarcation, and stuff like that. What that seemed to suggest is that the CPP is at variance with the political parties who won the election, the census outcome thrown out of the window.
To be set aside, right?
Yeah. Their decision to run to the Supreme Court is an act of condonation that they accept the census. And because they accept the census, that's why they want the data from the census to become the basis for the redemarcation of constituencies across the country. That is not healthy because the very CPP closely follow the processes leading to the start of what became a mock census. And we saw one of the directors from this, from Legis go rogue simply because standard operating procedures required nationally and internationally were ignored by Legis with respect to the execution of vis-a-vis the mock census and then transitioning to a proper census. While that guy had gone rogue about missteps regarding getting the census up and running, census was being conducted. And a lot of Liberians complained that they did not have the opportunity to be counted, especially so from an institution of state that should be very cognizant of the fact that the concerns of every Liberian or group of Liberians should matter with respect to a census that has taken more than 10 years to be conducted. We cannot dismiss those Liberians because they are part of a process that will then lead to what we even want a census for, and what we hope to achieve in the process. So the CPP's action ran contrary to a group of opposition political parties who recognized in the first place that the census got up to a very rocky start, that Legis ignore all the national and international best practices for the conduct of the census. And mind you, some of our international partners sanctioned the outcome of the census, raising more questions than answers in the entire process. One can understand they are invested heavily. But at the same time, where were the international partners when a very key voice at Legis started to raise serious eyebrows about some of the missteps that had gone wrong and the inability of Legis to adequately address those concerns? Be as a may, Legis has told us that our census is done and dusted, that we have 5.2
2 million.
million people in our country.
We've been 5 million people for a long time.
very, very well. Very well.
Yeah, we've been working with that 5 million for a while. I mean, even while I
So
work in the
in 10 years,
humanitarian.
10 years, we 5.2. Look, I have no doubt that somebody simply decided to cut and paste.
But mind you, the 2008 census, which is 15 years ago, put us at 3.5 million. I don't know if that census, the way it was conducted, was considered credible or was called into question. But if we are acting from a fact that that census was considered credible, then is it astronomical or is it strange that the intelligence is now recording 5 million? I mean, I understand there are many people who say they nobody came to count them, right? Uh, but I've had that experience before. I mean, with other major population projects like mosquito nets with USAID that was supposed to be divided to every youth. Many of the people who even in my office said that nobody came to count them anyway. So I know the census is an estimate. But my question to you is, be it that the census is in suspicion by one group, uh, uh, considered okay by the humanitarian group for obvious reasons, what is the practicability of applying that census result to this election that is just about 7 months away? Because what that means, according to the Constitution, is that the legislature, looking at that census figure, will recommend the addition of new constituencies or districts based on a 20,000 per district formula, except that the total number cannot pass 100, and re-allot new districts and representatives positions. And on that legislation, the Elections Commission will now go ahead to organize her elections based on that. We don't know of the legislature doing anything like that already. I mean, to ask the Supreme Court to have the Elections Commission act on the basis of that census, in fact, in the absence of a legislation from the legislature which is in keeping with the Constitution. I mean, it kind of boneheaded to me, though.
Yeah.
Apart from the practical fact that if we were to even follow those procedures, that means we might have to defer the elections.
You're very much correct, of Sarah's. What is evolving could end up in a constitutional crisis, because with the census report coming from Grand Cru, Grand Jide River G, we expect new constituencies to emerge in those three counties in the southeast, as well as other counties.
Correct. I like to make that correction because Maserati also is recording an increase of about 79%. So that means if we are going by the 20,000 to district rule, then that means Maserati is also in play.
Right. So we have a very tricky situation on hand, and from the look of things, NEC has not demonstrated the preparedness to be able to respond decisively and administratively to those concerns, because NEC is now focused on the biometric voter registration, At no time point in time has NEC told us that as far as its plan of action is concerned, the issue of new demarcation of constituencies will be realizable. That difficulty will require new budgetary allocation, which NEC that quite recently told the national legislature through the Senate that it lacks the funding to effectively run the 2023 elections
Even as it is.
as it is. Yes.
Wow.
And after
So,
grading NEC, the Senate did not give us the impression that it will ensure the authorization of the required funding for NEC to proceed accordingly. That
wow.
difficulty, coupled with the CPP running to the Supreme Court, cannot be taken lightly. We could be headed for a constitutional crisis.
Okay, we are about 7 months from elections. I hope they can act expeditiously, to sort this thing out. I'm just looking at the practicability. First thing, I just think that if I before NEC begins to do any redistricting, that means it has to be informed by legislation according to
Right,
Article 80 of the Constitution.
precisely.
D and E are required that once census is done, then the legislature will make a determination on what kind of adjustments will be made in terms of the new districts, constituencies, and that is informed on the basis by the 28,000 to citizens group or what they destined to be expedition, expedient, except that whatever they do cannot result in the number of representative seats more than 100. So this is complex. It's a complex because if you look at Mosserado County, they got increase in the population of about 1 million. If you want to take 20,000 from that million,
Million.
you'll be taking about you'll be taking about at least 20 seats. To 20, if you want to take 20,000 citizens to make a district,
This
that
way.
means Mosserado will get another 20 districts, which is not even available because there are right now 73 districts, and the Constitution say we can only see 100. So there's 17 districts that could be created nationwide. So I can see this thing. I can see this thing. Or I don't know. I will watch the show as we go forward to see how this is resolved, hoping that it does not lead to a situation that postpones the election and lead to a constitutional crisis, like you said. So what's about what do you hear about the CIA in our country?
Sarah, it will interest you to note, like you said in your intro, this is the first time in the history of the CIA that has existed since 1946 to call at its Langley headquarters a sitting foreign president who diplomatically should be dealing with the State Department other than the CIA.
Yeah, everything should go through the Department of State. And even if there was a perception of any kind of crime, also dealing with the president, the Federal Bureau of Investigation that is under the Department of Justice is the one
Justice.
that pursues criminal cases around the world. That's why when the news came about drug that was seized in Liberia, everybody talked about FBI and FBI. So this is really really strange. I wish we because this is our country. I wish we
Right.
get a sense of what's going on. Because in the history of Africa and in our own history, there have been speculation. I've been doing some elaborate reading and listening to testimonies from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for work that I'm on, and some of the speculations that have been widespread and sustained over time has turned out from looking at the evidence not to be true. For example, we've always heard that the First Lady Victoria Talbot either wrote in a book or conferred with people that, in fact, the people who killed her husband have white hands. And I just completed a book that she wrote called Lift Her Up.
Yeah.
And she explained how the residents were invaded at the Iflo Executive Mansion, and how her husband was killed, and how two of the children who they raised were also shot. And in that book, she said nothing but white hand. In fact, she said it was the soldier boys. The only thing that she stated that I didn't hear about earlier was that after they shot Talbot, because she said Talbot had the audacity when they started banging at the door to go and even wear a white suit. You know, can you imagine a guy who on a fire, he took a time, a guy in a white suit, and she kept on telling him, well, it's only happening, it's only happening. He said, well, wherever happening, it is. They want to take my life, you know. But she said after the guys shot her husband, she heard them saying, oh, yeah, let him, we're ready to get out 25,000, we finished with a job. Leaving the impression that somebody paid them to kill the president. And that's something that I had not known until I read from. So it will be interesting for us to understand what this meeting was about, so that for the years to come, we cannot be the victims of speculations about why the sitting president of Liberia was invited to Langley to sit with the spy chief of the United States in such a public way.
Cyrus, all of this amounts to inexperience. Anybody who has an appreciation of the function and intricacies of a functioning government, getting a request from a Langley, you will start talking to people who are diplomatic in content, people of international security orientation in size and stature, and people who understand interagency operations as well. Because you got the NSA right there in Monrovia. Somebody NSA director. Hey, is this a regular pattern? Do you have any incident of any of our people being invited by Langley? Bring us up to speed on what it is, regionally or internationally. Justice Minister, ring in your Justice Minister.
Minister of Foreign Affairs. So the Justice Minister accompanied, the Minister of Justice accompanied the president to that Langley meeting.
And ring them in. Is it because it is the director of the CIA that came to you, so you cannot ask why you have to show up at Langley?
Even ask the State Department, because this is your point of contact. Except that maybe I don't know. That's why I said this is very peculiar, because now it's not an issue of whatever the case was, though. The president of Liberia is a sovereign. It's a sovereign. There are protocols and how you deal with another country.
Right.
To invite the president of the country to the CIA, and then he honors the invitation in such a manner, because he doesn't carry his personality alone. He carries the integrity of the Republic of Liberia. He represents. Yeah. Well, anyway, since it's still undercover, we leave it that way and look forward to the government of Liberia. I hope the people of Liberia are bold enough to ask.
As undercover as it is, I hope the undercover consequences don't impact our sovereignty.
Correct. I hope the people are bold enough to ask the president the wishes the right on or what was the purpose of the meeting to Langley, and what's the deal, so that if the heat is about to fall on us, at least we can prepare ourselves.
Cyrus.
Yeah.
Langley is an agency of the United States government that is never in the news. So I'm not sure whether the president will have the audacity to want don't want to.
That's why he should have let his security people handle that and don't even make public the
So
interaction
it
between
started.
the
It started with his people. The media advisory. The issue is what has caused the hype that they are unable to control and reckon in the process.
Okay, hey, but Kenna, I like that we can cover those intro issues. We'll take a short break and then we'll return and go to the subject of our discussion today, celebrity presidents. And before we take the intro, I mean the break, maybe we should do a quick introduction. You may know that everybody, Haiti and Liberia are the first Black independent countries in the history of modern governance. So the Haitian forcibly relieved themselves of the yoke of the French. They defeated the Spanish. In fact, they defeated Napoleon's army and they booted all the white people out of Haiti. In fact, the devastation that they meted to the French was such that the French sold all of American territory and what is Louisiana today to the United States for 1 cent on each acre. And that means they were so broke from what the Haitians did to them, and it's the famous Louisiana Purchase that's what led to that. But Haiti suffered for that because they fought for their freedom. They were blockaded for years. They had to pay to the French what is termed freedom's price, some bondage, from 1804 all the way until about 1964. They were paying for that, and the French and the Westerners blockaded Haiti as though they ensured that that experiment where Black people who were enslaved would fight the yoke of colonization and free themselves would not be an example for any other Black people to follow. But not too many years after Haiti, Liberia was declared independence in 1847. In fact, the United States struggled to recognize the independence of Liberia and Haiti. So the fight to recognize Liberia and Haiti was a joint effort by some statesmen in the United States, especially Northerners, and eventually Abraham Lincoln in 1962 recognized together Liberia and Haiti as independent countries. You all know that those two countries have remained among the poorest countries in the world for various reasons. But today we're going to be discussing a particular period in the history of Liberia and Haiti, the election of celebrities as president who were not traditional politicians. They were popular because of the arts. In many cases, they did not have apex education, and they became elected president. We'll look at some of the circumstances, and then we'll come back to our discussion. So let's take that break.
To be your weakness, baby. Lie to me if the truth will break my heart too. Sing for me, even though your voice they crackle. Dance with me, even if you're dancing off the beat. Take a chance on me, don't you believe I'm worth the risk? Smile for me, baby me please. Smile, I want to be you are where you fit die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Will you fight for me? Even if now Kokano, take a ride with me. Go equals anybody to move Farrago. Oh baby, promise me the world because nothing is too much. You know that I
Bote cole. Bote cole.
Your weakness, baby.
Hey, want to know how?
Well, I was born in Brooklyn. But Haiti is my lifeblood. My parents could have just decided not to come to America. I could have been one of those kids.
There is still plenty of frustration with the government there over the slow progress of rebuilding.
Everyone was what in the government. They don't do.
You need someone who can inspire the people. So I called my friend. Michel Martelly. I was like, you know what? You need to run for president of Haiti.
Hey, Ikenna, come right back. We're having a problem with this video, so we probably may as well just begin to discuss. I see you're still in mute. If you can hear me, Ikenna, come back on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we what this intro video about? We're receiving some very negative signal, so I'm not going to push that. We keep trying to see if we can get a better look. But somewhere in 2010, the Haitians elections came out after the earthquake and a lot of loss of confidence in the traditional political leaders. This guy who is an artist in New York from Haiti, the former member of the Fugees band, Prius Michel, he solicited support from a lot of prominent Haitians, and they decided to push an artist, a guy called Michel Martelly, commonly called Sweet Micky. He was a famous musician in Haiti, exotic dancer. They decided to push Martelly to run to be president. Initially, it was like it was comical to many people that hey,
For over 20 years, he's been one of Haiti's favorite musicians.
Martelly, a lot of people laugh it out, you know. But he went to the elections and he had popular support, especially with the Haitian youth who were discouraged about conditions in their country. And where the first round of elections, almost like ours, you need to reach a certain number to get automatic victory, or not, or else there's a runoff. He didn't make the cut, the top two, but there were claims that in fact he was cheated. So for pressure from the international community, especially Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary, who was Secretary of State, they recounted the election and said like he was one of the top two. So he went in the runoff, and behold, he was elected president of Haiti. I mean, you see the image that's shown there, the clip is somehow slow, but he would normally dance in his unawares, you know. Sweet Mickey, Sweet Mickey, Sweet Mickey became president of Haiti. Again, the reason I made selecting Sweet Mickey was so that we look at what Sweet Mickey presidency represented. Because the story about Sweet Mickey taking over Haiti and the story of it's almost similar. It's almost similar. Uh, uh, you got public resentment of the political system that eventually leads to the election of otherwise unexpected person as president, and he takes over, and Haiti started to incur the same challenges. In fact, his relationships were basically with ordinary people. As an artist, he knew guys, black money people. He was accused of dealing with criminals. Uh, uh, very soon, they selected him, started to protest. They didn't want him anymore. Let's see what I comes up to. I want to also have some vivid, yeah. So in few short years of Metele Tsunmiki's presidency, the Haitian people got on the rampage. They need him out, and it will eventually lead to he served his term in Haiti is 5 years, but close to the end of the 5 years, the people literally demanded that he does not get the chance to run Haiti anymore. You know, and it was close to turning the country into another civil war. Uh, if you are watching, have the chance to look at Haiti and the damage that was done, Italy, the military went up against the people. People got killed. And eventually, at the end of his term, in fact, before the end of his term, he had to step aside, leaving Haiti without a president or an interim period before another president was elected. And I wanted to I sent you the talking points earlier. I hope you were able to do some background on it, to inform your views on some of the things that happen. I wanted Mitchell himself to we took somehow we got poor reception with this equipment that we lost. We brought down some images of his view of what had happened, and I hope that we will have him say something. You know, smart guy, but the reception is fairly poor. So I will keep flipping between some of them. We can get one of them where we can get his voice.
Round of applause as Haitian President Michel.
Man, this is sad.
Yeah, it is.
I really would have loved us to run these tapes. I don't know why they are coming so poorly, but
Martelly officially steps down. He did it last night, and Local 10 was the only.
Let bear patient and see if the rail will catch up a little bit, even if we can see one of them.
No, but Cyrus, quite frankly, there is you quite correct. There is a similarity between their history of leaning towards celebrity because of their own frustration with the mainstream political actors, and then you know you were
South
just
Florida station there to capture his final moments in office. Martelly's departure.
Go ahead. If that comes true, we'll let him talk. But go ahead.
yeah, sure. And so we bear similar history. Um, Up to 1980, the fall of the Tory party that has inherited power for 133 years, the arrival of the junta, a bunch of inexperienced folks who
Punctuates
are
months of
absolutely
election limbo
no,
and accusations of election fraud.
Go ahead, Kina.
who had no understanding of statecraft, but then such was our plight. They sort of co-opt progressive elements who were anti, the Tory party hegemony, and somewhere along the line, the very people they are opposed started to infiltrate and create uh, uh, a system of divide and rule between the military junta and the progressive elements. We were earlier informed that the army will return to barracks. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Though had gone to
We've told you
Egypt,
about the runoffs put on
came
hold and
back.
the violent protests that have followed.
Egypt had the National Democratic Party. Do must have heard about the National Democratic Party. And when he got back, one of the contenders for the 1985 elections, Councillor Wele Apiton, started with National Democratic Party, but it is just unclear how those two the show and then formed the National Democratic Party of Liberia. You know, um, so we had a situation of a referee and a player in the 1985 elections. The antecedents for the 1985 elections took us to 1989 or to December 24th. We saw our entire festive season, and we thought it had come for door. Later they will realize that for 14 years we were going to be dragging on the multiplicity of warring factions here and there. You know, the pursuit of the booty of war between the various factions. And the last war, 2003. But as a result of all of those things, the fatigue that has set in, this enchantment, with politicians and warlords, some group of Liberians who realized that while the war raged, there was one man who was on the television as an athlete. Various international wires of sports department saw him as the face of a country that was at war, you know. Um, and so they sought to use that popularity for all the wrong reason, because Liberians have become frustrated with their politicians, and they were looking in their perception. They were looking for somebody who had no stain with the politics either from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, or had no dent associated with the horrendous circumstances that have befallen us as a nation in the midst of a war. And so they were looking up for that person. And they thought George Weah had a popularity. And it is that popularity that they wanted to ride on in order to sort of re-emerge on the political scene. Well, other than thought Weah was dumb. They were mistaken. He might not have been the smartest guy, but he knew what he was all about. And he played the game so well, because by the end of the day, you come to realize that it was the politicians who wanted power and thought his popularity would make sense that started running up to him. Brown skin wanted to do business with Weah. Winston Totman came into Weah's camp. And so a lot of other right-thinking professionals and politicians alike who saw in Weah the popularity and wanted to ride on that popularity. They were not looking at the greater good. They did not have interest.
Opening up a new building, and
in the
Michel
country.
Martelly.
I mean, it was
I hear you all. It cannot go ahead.
I saw Michel Martelly in he on these.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was well known to take off his pants and dance in front of people, and
we are is making music,
and you became very emotional.
He's seriously making music. When we have serious challenges about joblessness, inadequate funding to support our health and education sector, when nothing is running, the system is as clueless as you can imagine. And he goes to the studio and is throwing jabs at his political rivals.
The reality, Ikena, is that he is a celebrity. I mean, he's used to fame and people cheering, and that's why I thought we should talk about Michel Martelly, who before he became president was generally known as Sweet Micky, right?
Yeah.
Sweet Micky. The Haitian people are 200+ year old nation. We look at the guy who they see on the stage all day taking out his pants and dancing, and having had any position in government before or having run any major organization, and they elected him to be their president. And barely 3 years down the road, they were out in the street burning tires and stuff like that. They want to get him out. So my thing is that they really had an expectation that he could deliver them. Where does that come from? I'm not putting that burden on Martelly, because there's nothing in his life that showed that he could save a country. How do people get to vote for celebrity. And these are rare cases in the case of Martelly and later on Weah, because the situations are similar. Just like Pierce Michel from the Fuji went, put people together and said, "Look, let's get this guy who sing to be the president. We think he will save our country." In the same way, people got together. Most of our brothers from Minnesota claim that distinction, that they got together and went to Weah, Samuel Twe, and told Weah that he was a good fate for the president. Well, maybe before I even make any judgment on Weah, what's your impression of Weah's performance?
Weah and his people are still in campaign mode.
This is 5 years into the president. This is his 6th year.
We went to election since 2017. We had a jam-packed Samuel Kayando sports complex. The previous administration had laid the foundation. All he had to do was to build upon that foundation. His performance over the last 5 years and 3 months is the worst we've ever seen in the history of trying to manage the small West African nation. Ministers are not accountable because the president, who must hold them in check, lacks what it takes to rein them in.
Go ahead, my brother.
In terms of performance, their responsibility, or as it were, their TOR. We have promised jobs. The jobs are not coming back. He resorted to harmonization. He worsened the plight of civil servants. And in some cases, civil servants who for 12 years have got used to receiving their paycheck regularly were finding it difficult, experiencing delays at some point in time. The health sector is nothing to write home about. Education is dwindling and is impacted by the kind of leadership that we have. We have performance. Could we place at 35%? That is, we have a government. Yes, we have a government.
35%.
You wake up in the morning. Yes, we have a government. But the government is not a reflection of what a true government elected by the people ought to be. You are asked, why would the people in the face of the challenges they face choose to elect celebrities? I mean, in terms of its rarity.
Correct.
These are popular people. Weah comes with that semblance of an unusual political character. Weah is a reflection of the slum. For his supporters, in him, they saw a reflection of the harsh reality that they've lived over time. And they failed to understand that even after he left the slum and started to make progress as football had detected, they could not point to little things that he has been able to do that will impact where he came from. Like we see in the case of Didier Drogba. We see in the case of Manen of Senegal, these are people who came from slum communities. And today, the very slum communities can tell you that this is our son who left us a couple of years ago. You understand? His talent has taken him this far, and this is where he has come to give back. We have started a school in Gibraltar. He's executive president. I'm not sure whether he has ever gone back to see whether the school is up and running. But these people are consumed by this stardom, irrespective of the difficulties and frustration of the moment. They tell you that this is our God. The God of football that made Weah will be the same God of football that will transform it into the politicians that will build houses in Popo Bridge because a couple of houses got burned down somewhere in Yukutan. What are they of standard? Its enablers will argue that they're wearing such houses. And so to have one is progress. Progress is where you change the condition of the person in such a way that he is experiencing elevation. And that progress, they will allow the person to be doing almost the same thing. And you say, simply because he did not have roof on top of his head, and now there's roof, it doesn't matter whether the roof meets the basic condition that is livable, but simply because he has roof on his head. So our people, particularly those who stay the diehard supporters of Weah, believe that it is the distractions coming from some of us, the pundits, the politicians, that's what's preventing Weah from doing all the goodies. Because it's like their philosophy is the boy loves the country, but these people don't want to give him the time to concentrate on what needs to be done. He has all the time in the world. He's executive president. Honestly, he's executive president.
It's really not a. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's really not a laughing.
No, it is serious.
It's not a laughing matter.
Such is the plight of the people who are thinking that way. You know, such is the plight of the people who are thinking that way, and very unfortunate indeed.
How do you make a country work or any organization work? And that's why first the notion that this popular guy place supposed can be president. Maybe it came out of his humanitarian work. Maybe his care for the country, going to refugee camps here and there. But I think it's more about the people than the candidate. It's more. We are a democracy, but I don't know whether we are an informed population.
No, we are an informed population. Because it is good you say we are a democracy, but the instruments of state that should make us a functional democracy, they've all been sort of cocoon. Imagine the first branch of government sits there and is unable to exercise the power it has. You cannot get an independent judiciary, which as part of the facet of democracy must ensure checks and balance. That in this day and age, the legislature will tell us that they've passed into law a pension scheme for lawmakers, most of whom know that they will not return to capital building and offer themselves huge benefits. How are they going to get that? Do we have the capacity, the revenue generating capacity to be able to pay the huge sums that they've allocated for themselves while they go on retirement? So
It's
yes,
amazing.
the celebrity is sitting in the executive mansion. He's clueless. But those who should help our democracy to be functional and fully operational and participatory, because they are the direct representatives of the people, they have turned themselves into cheerleaders, and that's the unfortunate thing.
So I listen to one of the areas that I also have concern about is because the president is as good as a value is value judgment, right?
Right.
So the only thing we missed is that as a president, you are, and we have an imperial presidency. So as a president, the Constitution gave you the responsibility to make the country work. We put all our resources at your disposal. There are a couple of checks and balances that you don't break the law. Then there's some oversight from the legislature, but ultimately you have the power and you have the resources. All you need now is ingenuity to be able to provide value for the people now. So judgment on the part of the president is very essential. We have divided our executive branch of government into agencies for the purpose of producing that value. What puzzles me is that a president who at some point will be held responsible for the outcome of governance can just appoint people to lead this institution cluelessly. You take somebody and making the head of an institution who has no knowledge, basic background, the ability to even learn. And you do that just because maybe it's a party person or it's a friend. That's one situation. Another situation that I will point to directly. We build an airport because I'm into transportation infrastructure. So I understand how things like airport and seaport bring significant value as enablers of the economy of any country.
Right.
So those institutions are not to be taken lightly because they can actually make the rest of the wheels turn. You take the airport, okay, Madam Sirleaf cut a deal with the Chinese. They gave a $50 million loan. They built a terminal. Right? Their criticism about that method, but you have a terminal that's turned over to you as you become president. Then a big argument ensued. As part of the terminal, there are trading areas. If you look at airports around the world today, the commercial activities in the airport are gradually becoming of more value than the activities on the air side.
Right.
What do I mean? Most airports operate based on fees they charge to airlines to come in.
Right.
But big airports like George Bush International in Houston here, they make more money out of the business in the airport, supermarkets or restaurants or a mall or all kinds of trade, cigar bar, whatever. They make a lot more money out of that because of the economic activity than they make out of fees that they charge from airlines. In fact, there's a big argument now by some carriers that because we call your facility, that's why you're making that kind of money. So you need to, instead of charging us, you need to give us money for coming to your airport. That's where the concept coming from. So you take the airport in Monrovia, and there's a big argument over the duty-free facility at the airport. That the president or people of influence have made a decision that that entire duty-free facility be handed over to a Ghanaian citizen who is the president's girlfriend called Jackie Appiah. You remember there was a big back and forth about this guy who Lebanese guy who owns the hotel Ahmed Mudad.
Yeah.
He was still fighting to take the duty free at the airport, and eventually he didn't get it. But the notion is that that space is reserved for Jackie Appiah. Here's my point, Ikena. Which airport in the world gave the whole duty-free right to one person? That space is there, just like any commercial space. If you buy or 10 cubic meter to sell your newspaper, you should be able to buy it.
Yeah.
If you want to buy a place to sell your donuts, you should be able to buy it. Now, if there's a big company that has the ability to develop the facility before they sell it, and you are offering it to that person to bring value, I can understand that. But imagine what's happening at Roberts Field. is kind of dormant in that area because you just take it and give it to somebody, and they don't have the ability to develop it to the standards that we are. That's one of the concerns. Now we'll get into one or two, but before we do that, I'd like to welcome one of our guests. He said he will join us later. My buddy Ava Tupa. Ava, let me see if I can bring it in. We don't have the same challenges that we've been having. Ava, welcome to Election Central, my man. Thanks for joining us. This is the first time you've come. This is our 7th edition. I don't know if you've been following, but we've been discussing celebrity presidents. We've earlier talked about some of the issues around our country, voters registration, and I would like you to chime in on the issue of the case that the CPP had taken to the Supreme Court. It doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe you can make some sense out of it. And then the unprecedented meeting between our president and the CIA. We talked about that already, but we're really in the middle of discussing the validity of a population electing a celebrity figure who has no experience in governance or managing any organization. And I was just in the middle of calling to question some of the things that have been going on in Liberia in terms of governance or the absence thereof. So welcome. Before we go forward, maybe I know most people know you already, but let me give you the chance to make an opening statement.
You're muted.
We still can't hear you. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be muted, but we can't hear him. But he will come right back as soon as he can fix that. But like I was saying, he cannot, right? So we literally doomed the airport because we say, okay, they don't rampers in there on the duty-free facility. So they take few sulfur and put it in the corner, and they got some people there asking for $20 so you can sit there and they say you dry race or whatever, right? That one thing. Look at our ports. Because we concession 8 p.m. terminal to mine just 600 meters of the port, so we think that all the rest of the port is dormant. We send people there who don't know what they're doing. We got Ava back. Let's see. I can hear you clear now, Ava. Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome. Did you hear me earlier?
Yeah, I heard your whole intro, and I was saying I haven't followed the show today, and neither have I followed your previous shows. But congratulations on the show. I think it's very essential to the whole elections process. I guess this is the first time I'm meeting your co-panelists or, your other guest. My name is Isaac Vatukba, for those who don't know me. Currently, I'm an ASC, partisan. I support the presidency of the presidential bid of Ms. Alexander B. Cummings. And I think these kind of platforms and situations are wonderful in terms of us, getting to really be able to explain to the Liberian people or to different audiences what our thoughts are on these different issues and how we think, we can find solutions to some of these quote unquote bedeviling problems of our country. And Cyrus, we've been in this thing for a while. We've tried to work together on several occasions. The powers that be have tried to suppress our goal for a better Liberia, for a better and accountable Liberia, because we had an organization called Global, the Global Organization for a Better and Accountable Liberia. We're accused of treason and, other stuff.
I think they were joking.
No, they were serious. Trust me, they were serious. Just how they were serious to kill me recently. These movement is just so insecure. They don't take opposition or honesty, and people who really want the best for Liberia, they don't take us for a joke. They try to destroy us as much as they can, or if it's easy for them, they do so. But just to go back to the key point we're talking about in terms of the ANC or the CPP case before the Supreme Court. I even consider you kind of a constitutional scholar, so I'll be surprised that you will not see the sense in that particular petition to the Supreme Court. Do you believe that NEC is progressing the right way?
So you asked me the right question?
Yes, From
progressing relative to the registration, I mean the voters registration and stuff like that. That's what you mean, right?
Where's the progression, right? You do a census. Based on that census, the legislature sets a threshold. Based on that threshold, the National Election Commission should design the redistricting and set the constituencies. None of that has happened, but yet NEC is registering people and registering people in a process. Were you aware even of this whole pre-registration online?
No.
Exactly. So they have not shared the process, and you got a high degree of project management. And you know, when you have stakeholders in the process, you got to apprise them of, your entire process, your expectations, your milestones, all the different tasks involved. NEC has been like a black hole. So this whole thing about them trying to register people at this point without the benefit of the detailed information in the census for us to know what's what, whether there's any veracity to that census information, especially with the kind of surprising fertility numbers coming out of the Southeast in Montserrat County. When you look 3 or 4 years back, those numbers were different, based on national studies by Liz Jace and other people. So it's just not sequenced properly. It's just not in the best interest of the opposition at this point, and it's necessary that the Supreme Court, really looks at it and halts the process.
So, Ava, thank you, but I just need to understand something, because I think there's a misunderstanding here. What exactly is the CPP asking the Supreme Court to do? Because the impression that seems to be circulating is that the CPP is asking the Elections Commission to use the census to do redistricting and all that as is required in Article 80 D and E of the Constitution. Is that what it's saying?
Exactly. That first step involves the affirmation of that census. They can't just put out preliminary numbers, preliminary stats that have not been vetted. They haven't shared any details. So we want to start from that point. Then they can do the redistricting. Then they can do the threshold. Then the NEC can do the redistricting, and let's know, because some people have done work in certain areas, right? So if the NEC just redistrict arbitrarily, it can affect those people. So those are things that need to come to the table, before the NEC can just go ahead and just register people.
Yeah, I asked that question. I'm gonna say in the dark though, right? I like most people have a problem with the census, but we are 7 months away from elections, roundabout, right?
Hold on. I'll just interrupt you and say I don't think we can use the time issue as a means to just skip past steps and just jump into something that's not the most effective way for us to do
it. Okay, I grant that. So let me make my point. According to the Article 80 of the Constitution, D and E,
right?
First, the census has to be held 10 years. When the census is held, the result of the census has to determine the redistricting, if it's necessary, based on a 20,000 people to a district rule. And that's supposed to be done by the legislature, except that there cannot be more than 100 districts altogether. Go ahead.
Now, redistricting, they are supposed to set the threshold based on even population across, and that 20,000 is like a kind of placeholder, but based on the population, they can reset that number, but they cannot go over more than 100 constituencies.
Good. So they got a discretion to change that number to 40,000, whatever, but it has to be equal across the board.
Right.
Good. So with that being the case, that is not the Elections Commission job, though. If you read Article 80 D and E, if you got access to it, maybe you should inform the discussion. That is the legislature. That is the job of the legislature to do after the census. So once the legislature has done that, then that should inform the way the Elections Commission go about determining how they set voting precincts and all that. The argument before the Supreme Court from the CPP is that we have a census result. All the things that should precede the registration and stuff has not been done. So we should correct that, right?
Right.
And you said time is not a factor. So in your own judgment, assume that they decide, say, okay, because to do that first, they have to agree that this census result, we agree with it.
Thank you.
So what is the position of the CPP? Are they agreeable with the census result?
No, we're not. We're very clear in that we don't agree with the census. We've been saying that for the longest time.
So what do you envisage if the because the other parties are keen together, the other day said the same thing, they should set the census result aside. So if from your perspective, you don't agree with the census result in lieu of the case you put before the Supreme Court say, okay, what would be the outcome? Should we do the census?
Whatever the right approach is, because I'm sure you follow the census. How long have you had your show? I'm sure you probably did a show on the census. I'm sure you saw the video of the people there instructing people how to manipulate the data for the census. Have you seen that video?
No, but then if that's the case, why don't we argue that the census just be thrown out?
Okay, but again, we can argue that, but it has to be a constitutional process, right? Because the NEC will be going on that census information in the blind, and we can't allow that to happen.
I don't see the NEC going on the census information, because if NEC is registering people based on the prior demarcation based on the last of the elections, that means they are not taking into account that new census has been done.
Yeah, but then they're still violating, right? Because the whole idea of demarcation is to have a relative equal number of constituencies for each district. That's the general idea, right?
Oh, okay. And because it sounds to me like we have a quagmire.
We do have a quagmire. We've been having it. It's government doing that its responsibility for the longest
So what's the
time.
outcome? In October, if we do not have an elections, we'll also be in violation of the Constitution.
What question we would be? And
it will make illegitimate the Weah administration at the end of January, and the occasion more violation of the Constitution.
Right. So that's why we can't keep digging hole to cover hole. Well, let's do this thing right.
How can we do it right? Give me an idea. What do you seek out of the Supreme Court?
Like we said, with this stuff, we asking the Supreme Court to halt this voter registration process, and then we can have that discussion on whether we recognize in the census or not. In the meantime, let them provide the details of the census, because the census can easily be proven to be faulty based on what the population stratification is by age bands. We have what we have from 2008. We have some interim numbers, and then we have some fertility numbers, and then we have the numbers today. So over the last 2008? Yeah, over the last 14 to 15 years.
15 years.
Yes. So we look at what has changed. There should be no dramatic shift in the population who are 15 and above. Can you agree with that?
No, I can't. I mean, also looking at statistical analysis of the data.
Okay, so anybody 15 and above was born before the 2008 census, right?
Correct.
So either you have significant deaths in those age bands, but you cannot have new births. So that population should not change dramatically. It's the new births that we're looking at, maybe 100,000, 120,000 a year. And those are not voters.
Okay, so if they're not voters, how do they impact the election?
So they impact the election, those who are 15, who are, let's say 3 years old in 2018. Right?
2018, it will be about 12 years old.
All the way 3 to 17, that population. That's a significant population. You follow?
Yeah, but if somebody was 3 years old in 2008, right? then they will be around 12 years old now.
No, I said we are 15 years. From 2008 to
15
2020,
years.
15 years.
Correct. They were, but if they were 12 years old.
No,
I mean,
they were 3 years old. They are 18 years today. And
they're 18. Correct. They're 18 years old now. Correct.
Right.
So, well, the way I see it, there's a crisis over the numbers. At least there's a perception of the process not being done right. Yet we are in election year. There's elections also scheduled based on the Constitution. What is the remedy? Because if you are saying that we should fix that problem, that means we'll be solving one constitutional problem by creating another constitutional problem.
Then we try to solve all of them.
We'll not be able to have elections October.
We can't just dismiss them. That's our point. You can't just dismiss that and assume that everything will just be fine. No, you know.
I cannot. I mean, I cannot. You want to chime in, because I don't get the impression that the Elections Commission is following that census. They're going ahead with the old data that they had.
No, I'd say.
Wait, before you comes on, let's correct that. They're not going ahead with no old data. They're doing a totally new registration of everybody.
Yeah, but the registration they're doing is completely separate from the census. Because if you argue that the census result is not correct, what is more authentic is because if the census results were correct and we have actual data in either the National Registry and legis that have a unique identifier, then really technically you shouldn't be having voters registration.
But
so
no. You can have voters registration, but not identification. Right now, the next should not be doing identification. And I'm glad you brought up that point.
What do you mean identification? What do you mean? What is the distinction between identification and voter registration?
What is the difference between you getting a license and a PMI certificate?
No, but that's not the same.
So what's the difference between you getting a social security card and a license?
And driver's license?
Yes.
They're two different things.
Exactly. So your social security ID is your unique national identification, right? It's asked for nearly in everything you do.
Yeah.
Right?
It should.
Right. It should. Okay. So they got the Liberia Identification Registry, the National Identification Registry. I don't know if you know about that institution.
I got an ID card myself, but I mean, other people will argue that it's questionable also.
So then we got everything questionable in our country, right? They will try to fix them.
But the point I'm making to you, is the voters registration stands on its own.
Yeah, but voter registration should be based on some identification. What is the reference of fingerprints today? What does taking your fingerprint originally for the first time with NEC do for you? Nothing.
Maybe it will be the beginning of creating a database.
But they are not responsible for biometrics. That's the problem with what we have in our country. Everything is screwed up and it's based on who has
but the Elections Commission have always conducted voters registration. Even though they were not taking electronic fingerprints, they were taking fingerprints. What was the difference with that? And issuing cards. My man, when I registered to vote, they made me put my fingerprint in the white paper. I cannot. Did they do it differently?
You can't read and write, so they made you put your fingerprint there.
No. We all put our fingerprints there. In fact, what do we read and write? Yes.
I'm just teaching Sarah.
Yeah, you know that this is a very important argument because eventually it might create an embarrassing situation for all of us.
No, but it is. It is seriously an embarrassment. And that's why I'm trying to distinguish the difference between identification and registration. Registration is just the right to vote. Identification gives you that national identifier that's unique for every citizen in the country. That is not
election, but we're missing things. That's not Elections Commission job.
But that's what I'm telling you.
To determine citizenship or identification, they're just going to give you a right to vote if you can show evidence that you're a citizen and you are of voting age.
But thank you. So the
voter role. Yeah, go ahead.
So with that, since you know that, so next should not be executing that responsibility. They should simply be getting a database of everybody 18 and over who are Liberians from the National Identification Registry. They can use a mirror, a window, or data dump, or whatever for that
But they haven't been doing
population.
that. I cannot. I mean, Ava, we all know that we do not have the infrastructure for that
What do
yet.
you mean we don't have the infrastructure? We have
Are
the
you- do
national.
you have confidence in the national identification registry system there and the data they have? Do you think it cover everybody?
No, they have not. They have not registered everybody, obviously, but they need to. And that's
we're having election now, so we wait for them to register everybody.
But we'll be having these discussions, and NEC being running behind a budget to control. So we can't just accept because of incompetence. Then we just accept everything. No, we can't do that.
You cannot. What's your view there? Now we're having some in-depth discussion because at least Ava is on the front burner of this issue.
Sarah, just before Ava could come, I think I intimated that we could be heading for a constitutional crisis, and that's precisely the point I was trying to make. But where you and I disagree with Ava on the issue of the CPP is that by going to court and suggesting that NEC first embark on demarcation of the new constituencies, they've accepted the outcome of the census report.
Point of correction. No, we said it will halt the process. Let's go back to the census and then step forward. We're not saying the census is fine. No, we are disputing the census too.
When you go back to the census,
how do we do the demarcation? How do we do that? What data are we going to use to do in order to do the demarcation?
If we are doing any revision, it should be based on the new census. Either we'll go back and we disqualify the census, and there's general agreement. The constituencies that exist today will be the same 73 constituencies, the same 73 districts, and whatever population, whether District 17, Monserrato has 60,000, and District 1 in Grand Cru have 7,000, that's what we'll go with. That's
the point Cyrus was making earlier on, that consistent with Article 80, it is the legislature that must pass into law precisely how the demarcation processes will be carried out. To date, they haven't done that.
Thank you. So then, because they haven't done their responsibility, they've been paid $15,000 a month. Then the opposition should suffer with the potential of fraud.
Yes,
process.
It's something else, and I'm trying to figure it out. I still can't get my hand on it. I think before we had this discussion about the validity of the census a couple of weeks ago with Dan Syed on the program, and I didn't take my time, but I think while I was researching that, there is a law, either in the elections law or in the Constitution, somewhere that they to be able to enforce the result of the census on an election, you have to do it within 1 year of the no less than 1 year. I will find out Ava and share with you.
That would be part of the solution. If that's
but if that is the law, that means the census is not applicable to this election. The census results came in less than a year before they did the election. I'm going to research that. But hey, I think we've had enough on that. Let's bring Ava on some of the other discussions. Where the main discussion I will hold a bit. But what do you say about the unprecedented event of the Central Intelligence Agency, the U.S. spy agency, having a direct relationship in the public space with the leader of a sovereign country, even inviting the president to Langley? We still don't know the reason. I mean, that there's no. Do you know of any precedent of that?
None exists. My question is, where is the president today?
Maybe he's still at Langley.
So
that might get a damn long meeting.
No, but it's not a guest house.
Is he at a safe house? Where is our president? Look, we're taking this for a joke, but a serious issue. Where is President Weah?
Yeah, it shouldn't be hard to find out. That we probably need to start calling the guys who came along with him to find out where he is. Maybe wherever that meeting we're having the meeting, they get the guy assignment and they're sitting there in the dining room trying to figure it out.
Because I heard some people had candles. They say the American people made money from candles recently. They say they had candles around them praying.
Praying for what?
I'm not sure, but no, on a serious note, though, this to me is a violation of sovereignty. Was he
Correct.
elected as a U.S. citizen or as the Liberian president? I don't know, because this is our president, a president for a sovereign nation. Can the CIA raise the issue through the Department of the State Department of State? Can they do that? Because it's just totally nobody has seen it. And then the CIA does not do domestic stuff in America. They deal with foreign intelligence and trying to protect U.S. interests. So if we go by what the mandate is, are they protecting the interests against what President Weah has done, whatever that is? What is it? Why is it so secretive?
But the president of Liberia is not a person. It's a sovereign office.
The presidency is.
But the president and the presidents and the sitting president and the presidency is the same. I mean, he carrying the cloth of the president. That's why on our constitution he's immune to so many things.
It seems like he's not immune to being summoned by a foreign power.
No, I think he's agreeable because a serious Liberia, a serious country, would not countenance that. I mean, there are protocols, whatever the situation will be. There are protocols for that.
But simply,
where's the foreign minister? What are diplomatic missions for?
Have you ever seen a president just get up from here? Look at the picture. They passed the man through the back. You see the silver garbage can there in the picture? They passed the man in the back or wherever place they were going. So he was not receiving no presidential reception over there. And we're joking around with some people saying, oh, they come in strengthening AFRICOM in Liberia. They come in build the biggest CIA.
But you want to strengthen Africa in Liberia, the Department of Defense would deal with our national security people and all that kind of stuff. The president would just be receiving recommendations.
The CIA base right now, I believe, is in Senegal. I haven't heard any talk about the CIA base changing direction in West Africa to go to any other country right now. So this is more than we know. We can only conjecture, guess. We can only
speculate, but the government of Liberia has a responsibility to explain to its citizens.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you, Cyrus. And you notice most of the time when the president travels, right? You will see when the president travels, you will see the. Okay, let me share my screen for you so you can see.
Go ahead.
I'll try to share the entire screen. I don't know if I have the right though. Okay, let me see. I think I do. Okay, so I'm sharing right now. Let me go to this first letter. Can you guys see this letter or this press release? Cyrus,
can you hear me?
Okay, look at the very bottom. It says the Liberian leader is expected to return home on Thursday, February 9th, right? That's for his trip to Ivory Coast, right?
Correct.
Okay. You see, basically, it seemed like nearly 5 paragraphs. He departing, why he's leaving, when he's gone, who will take his place, and that, right? So look at this one for the UAE, right? He left on the 17th. He departed. As part of his engagement, he will meet with key UAE and U.S. government officials. So he meeting with U.S. government officials, and we didn't even see anything. Plus development partners and would-be investors. Have you seen anything with that regard since the 17th?
It's not even carried in the news in the United States.
Thank you. Totally not carried. A president come to another country. These are the people who escorted him. While he is away, the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, Wizard Blamo, will chair the cabinet in consultation with the vice president. Do you see anything about when he will return at the bottom?
No.
Exactly. Presidential itineraries are spelled out, defined, and very clear. So this is totally unprecedented, brothers, and the listening audience. Let me stop sharing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, until we can really understand, they can come up with some kind of release and say what the situation is. The Liberian people are in a blind. I don't know what the sense of emotion is on the ground with regards to this. Some people say people are tense. They don't know what happened with the president. I myself won't know what happened with our
I cannot. I mean, Ava, that brings us back to the general theme of the discussion today of celebrity presidents, right? And we had talked earlier about Michel Martelly, Sweet Micky from Haiti. Exotic dancer was elected president in 2010, and how that went down the slope. People had to run him out of office, and he had to walk out, even leaving empty space for an interim presidency. Almost all the things that our president is either accused of, suspected of, are similar to what Martelly was suspected of. In fact, recently the Canadian government, which is like the U.S. government to Haiti, sanctioned the former president that he was doing business with criminals, with organized crime, and all that. You hear that same echo over our country. Today, we're discussing about the president being called to a meeting with the CIA, which is unprecedented. This begs my question: how do we get to elect a celebrity as president? With all the inadequacies we see in the government system.
There are multiple reasons. For like Michel, the way he got elected, I believe there was a crisis in Haiti. I don't know whether it was another what do you call the thing name, earthquake that they have over there or whatever.
Well, after the earthquake though.
Right. But no, he got elected in 2011. I think the earthquake of 2010.
He became president in 2011. Elections of 2010.
Right. So they announced, when he announced his stuff, people took it for a joke. At least with Weah, he went through a couple of trials, right? But with this guy, the people were ready for change. And that's the problem when you have corrupt governments, when people are ready for change, and most of the people, I don't know what, didn't really research anything on Haiti to know what the level of literacy is, the level of education and exposure in general. But they got some backward, I know they got some very backward places in Haiti.
It's a poor country. It's one of the poorest countries in the world, even though it's one of the oldest countries in the Western Hemisphere.
But if you look at the GNI, it's about what, 1,400, and while we are just 620, so it's 2.3 times ours.
Correct.
So there is something there that they have that we don't have, but they're used to a little bit better situation, and as much as poverty is there, they have some degree of wealth that little bit going around. It may not be spread around, but the mulattoes over there and the black people, there's a disconnect with them. Is a significant number of have-nots versus few haves. We have this similar thing there, but we have also the issue of tribalism, ethnicity, regionalism that exists in our country. So in terms of a celebrity itself, when these how should I say it? These major economic impacting things happen, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's the earthquakes or stuff like that, the people tend to try to rely on hope. And most people vote emotionally, not critically or technically. And so these celebrities whose names they know are the one they try to gravitate to. And once they can build up that fervor, because I remember Michel hired, like a Spanish firm that was very good at PR, and they pushed him into the minds of
all the guy, Wycliffe and all the guys. Once he was rejected, he went behind supporting Michel Martelly.
Yeah. So it's a tough thing that the popularity, and even with President Weah right now, is the same thing. The people are winning off that popularity now. Because at the end of the day, the stomach speaks. People want to eat something. People want to live a decent life. Many of those, we're just talking about the age. The people then who were 17, 18, running behind CDC for umpteen years, 12 years plus, and finally the CDC got elected, and the CDC government has turned its back on them. They only went for the greed. They have not gone to make a difference for the people. And that's the similar situation in Haiti. The level of competency in government is limited, very limited. So as much as you want your own people, if they can't perform, there will be no trickle down, no benefits to the people who are looking up to you. And that's what has happened in Liberia. So it's a tough thing to elect celebrities, but there's a need to elevate the mindset and the literacy level or education level of the people to understand what is responsible citizenship. We've talked about civics so many times, and maybe now the time is short, but can people look at the basic bread and butter issues and realize that this government cannot make a difference for them and there's a need for change? That's up to them. You'll not be affected. All the knowledge you got in the maritime area, in the port management, blah, blah, blah. How many times have they come to you to use your knowledge? What impact will you have on them if you serve your country in a positive role? Nothing. But they personalize some of these things. They limit the opportunity for qualified Liberians to participate in their own country. They limit the opportunities for Liberians who are entrepreneurs to really be business people. As a matter of fact, the government should be facilitating that. Look.
Yeah, but Ava, that's my question. Why is that?
Okay, there are two things. One is the whole jobs thing, that people are insecure to bring people who actually know the stuff around because they will shine better than them. The second thing is, there were actually three. The second thing is greed. Okay, there's a lot of greed going on, and that reduces the possibility of entrepreneurship, because they say, oh, we're going to do business with Liberian people. Because they know, for one, we got the money to come pay that bribe or to give somebody 50-20% of our individual companies. We don't. And the foreign people, because they come in as renters, and we are rentier state, they're just coming to extract. They're not coming to add value or develop. Look at how long fires don't be in our country, right? What kind of value? All the mining concessions that we have had, where significant number of iron ore going out. What kind of value addition have they brought in terms of iron ore? Look at the gold sector. Supposedly, we got 600,000 tons of gold in the B Mountain or in our Cape Mount area, or whatever. 600,000.
The people don't seem to be feeling the impact of the
cheapest value of a ton of gold is 52,000. When you multiply that thing, what number, that gazillion after trillion? You come about $32 gazillion. Gentlemen, I'm serious.
So we can even leverage that deposit.
But thank you. Leverage the deposit for development purposes. If today our roads, probably about 2.5 to 3 billion, we provide roads across the entire country. The telecom infrastructure, another $1 billion. We got internet, something everywhere in the country. Then we look at water. We look at sanitation. Then we look at, once we got infrastructure, we look at electricity. We're already getting some from Ivory Coast. It will just beef up all the areas that we don't have electricity. We can have a totally close to 21st century kind of infrastructure country beside the buildings. Then we can get to that next, right? Look, we have so much potential in Liberia. It's just that we have greedy leaders and short-sighted leaders. And those are part of the factors why our country cannot move forward.
Wow.
And you got other minerals beside those key minerals, right? All this stuff they talk about, bauxite and some other stuff that's supposed to be going into like making computer chips or other things. We got it in Liberia.
Yeah.
So yeah,
do we know that? But we are lazy too. We don't do the heavy lifting. I mean, the whole thing is also knowledge. That's why we got.
I really don't think it's knowledge. It's the people in position with all the knowledge. But as a body of people, let's look around us at Liberians in the diaspora. Even Liberians on the ground are highly qualified, but they're being minimized or marginalized because the people are insecure for those jobs and they got intent. Some of these people are professionals and want to do things the right way. They don't want that to happen. So we kind of stuck.
Who are the dead that don't want it to happen? That's my point.
People in power, the political class. Look at the list of academic frauds that are in the political class today. Do you think they want legitimate professionals to come around there and make them look like they don't know anything?
How do we fix that?
How many different conferences have Liberians gone to, and they come back from that conference or whatever, that summit, and come and really deliberate on the issues and say, this is what we're doing. This is the detailed benefit coming to our people based on all of these things. Look, the amount of money that in climate change today, where is EPA? How are we building a class of people who would be educated and knowledgeable about all the different aspect of climate change to move our country, to be able to get our carbon credits, to be able to do whatever else in that sector to benefit Liberian people. We are the ones now taking the responsibility for all the carbonization in the West, right?
Correct.
We gotta be so we gotta we got
and we're not even leveraging it.
Thank you. So there's just so many stuff. Look at our fisheries, man.
Our fishery is underserved. I hear a whole day about NAFA. Our fishery is operating at less than 5% of its capacity. If you just imagine that in 1979, just 1 out of 26 companies, one was bringing in about $49 million in net profit every year.
And that was a Liberian company. Was that a Liberian company?
Liberian company, the Mosserado Group, just from the fishing business.
Yes. So it's not that we can't
and the same water is still there. The same resource still there, maybe even more. Right now, there are more than 40 European vessels fishing our waters. Fishers. They don't call our ports. They don't come. We don't benefit from the value added.
No value addition. Even if I just for some of our people to clean our fish, for just someone to clean our fish and cut it, you know how many jobs we're creating?
I've had more than that. I mean, I went to the fishing port in Tema in Ghana when I was doing 3 months consultancy for NAFA on how they could create value for the Mosserado Pier. It shocked me. That's a whole billion-dollar industry. Just by processing the fish on your land in Tema, you got canning companies. You got people putting macro. You got fish oil companies.
I don't have your expertise and knowledge. I made it simple. Just to cut the fish and scrape the scales. That's all I see.
The employment alone, as a whole major economic activity, all that is dormant.
Like jobs.
Yeah, all that is dormant.
So you know,
and we treasure in the little things. So we're not even measuring the pace of our movement, whether backward or front, and our speed. Nothing. We just go on. We just carry on. I mean, we're discussing today, President visiting the CIA, completely unprecedented, completely without. You got even the U.S. State Department is quiet. Why is that? We even the people should be asking a question. Liberian people should be coming out in the public and say, "What's the deal? What's the deal?" Because there's something probably happening on the table, or maybe go to the United States Embassy and ask them to explain what's going on.
And it just
how about that? Ask a question that I didn't think about. Where is the president? That's a good question.
No, seriously, where's the president?
That's a real good question.
My man, a president is accountable to his people. You're not an individual, like you said, that's an institution. Nobody can just call you and you go, and then you inform your people, say you go in, what the deal is, what the situation is. Then some people say, oh, he going to the UAE. Then somebody else said, no, he didn't go to the UAE again. He going back to Ghana. Okay. So if he was to Ghana yesterday, why he not in Liberia today? What is holding him up in Ghana? You know, I really hope, look, for our own sovereignty and our own respect on the continent, we need our president to make his whereabouts known for us to be clear where we are.
Well, very soon we'll know. And the president is the president.
You know, I told somebody that I think just a pregnancy, it don't grow in the back, it grow in the front. It's time driven. At some point, he got to appear and he got to say what the deal is. The people got to know.
Yeah, guys, well, we really had a vibrant discussion. Ava, you coming in the 11th hour, you contributed significantly to this discussion. I
can come back another time, man. I really enjoy the show. You can share a keynote number with me. I can call him offline for us to just build a relationship. And you know,
yeah, I will certainly do that. So with the few minutes we have left, I would just like to make the rounds. You know, each of you get an opportunity to give us your parting statement, whatever way you want to say it. But let's start with Ikena.
Your starting from my KK.
I was wondering why you cannot still know starting with the KK.
And Sarah, quite frankly, again, let me say a big thank you to you. Election Central, for most people who may not know, Election Central dates back as far as 2017, during the crucial 2017 elections in Liberia. It provided a sense of direction, harmonized the kind of debate that took place, you know, regulated thought processes, all aimed at ensuring that Liberia had an opportunity to make a wise decision. And of course, By the end of the day, they thought they voted wisely, but the outcome, counting their wounds. But that said, I think the whole issue of celebrities and elections, it's not necessarily because the celebrities feel that they have what it takes to lead, but they simply ride on the mantra of the popularity, and with the people gravitating towards them, they then seize that moment to then make use of the democratic space, which evidently work for a good number of folks. Michel in Haiti on the one side, and George Weah in Liberia on the other side. Whether we like it or not, just as football is seen as a religion, they have sort of narrowed it to the issue of Weah, and some see him as the demigod. You know, have I raised a fundamental question? Where is our president? I'm not sure whether people are asking where is our leader. They're more concerned that he has done the exceptional by being the only sovereign leader to have been a guest of Langley. I mean, whether they understand the intricacies or not, the embarrassment it has caused to our nation state, that's another matter. NEC and the pursuit of the elections. NEC, I certainly believe, is proceeding wrongly. The whole issue of properly outlining the sort of timetable for an elections, so that by the end of the day, people know exactly what to do. Especially the time frame. You're giving people barely 2 weeks to vote in a country that's so difficult to read, especially where we saw election ballot boxes being ferried by canoe, and you're telling us that you are going to take these biometric, devices to some of these very remote areas. I mean, it's by the end of the day, most of our people will not even have the opportunity to get registered to vote. You know, we're talking about voting, but we did not flag the issue of what is obtaining in District 10 in Monrovia. I mean, we cannot turn part of our country into another Mogadishu. That is unhealthy. NEC hasn't said anything. The police hasn't acted responsibly. The Minister of Justice is still behaving like a lame dog. I mean, all of these things happening at the time we supposed to be holding crucial elections. It's
The Minister
worrying,
of Justice is already also in Langley too, so maybe that's why.
So, but Ava is right. We should be asking for our delegation who went to the briefing room at Langley. Even though the other folks spend most of their time in the waiting room, and they did not have the opportunity to take pictures like they would do to other public buildings in the states. So by and large, we still have a lot of work. We still have a lot of work to do. We face a serious constitutional crisis, and again, it comes to the leadership. Stay mum, mute, clueless, and unable to say anything reasonable.
Okay, Abba.
Sorry. Wonderful closing there, Kino. We have a lot of work to do, Sarah, just in general, from a governance perspective, from people who have the mandate for certain institutions, whether it's the NEC, whether it's the National Identification Registry, whether it's our legislature. Like you say, we have lazy people in government who don't execute their roles, at the standard required. And so far, President Weah has not done any performance management of the people who work for him. And it's very pathetic what we have as government today. So the issue of him being at Langley, I've been researching. The closest I can get is I think the guy from Brazil, when he first came to power in 2019, I believe Jair Bolsonaro. I think he visited Langley, but I don't know whether he was on a state visit to the U.S. I will try to find more about it. But other than that, I don't know of any president that has visited Langley, and it's very scary. We know there were issues with arms. Do you know? And I don't know if it's true. Somebody told me the arms that were found, the U.S. came and collected those arms. That's why I kept asking you, how were those arms disposed of? Supposedly, because they originated from the U.S., they came and they collected those arms. Then there's the issue of the drugs. Now, there were 2 set of drugs on containers that came through the country. Then we know the money trafficking. We know the illicit financial flows. You and I have discussed those before, Cyrus. So it's just like this, our country is like a transit point or a haven for these criminals. And that's not good for us if we say we are democracy and we are trying to reestablish ourselves. Our fragility lends itself to this kind of situation with the level of greed that our people have, our leaders have. So we have to change those things. I don't want to belabor the point. Thank you for this platform. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think you focus on the issues here because I know you're a substantive individual, not just a cosmetic. And hopefully, you can explain this platform that more people can be able to listen and benefit from this level, even though sometimes we may have to break down the discussion to consumable, bites for people who are, not occurring with, all this level of discussion. But thank you for having me, and I look forward, hopefully, to coming on another time at an earlier instance to have the full breadth of the discussion. So thank you. I will exit now. Thank you.
Thank you. No, Westmore, don't exit yet. I want to say something that probably you will want to hear. The first thing I want to say is that the issues that were raised here about possibility of crime, money laundering, and things. Those are law enforcement issues, and even the drugs. So normally it would be the FBI who should be dealing with that. So it still leaves a lot of doubt about what this CIA meeting was all about.
Oh no, but no. 1 second, Cyrus. Those are factors that lead to terrorism. Those are factors that lead to not securing the U.S. interests.
So they have been speculation that in fact Liberia that they had been on for a while that Lebanese business people in Liberia were funding Hezbollah and all that, and so all that leaves a lot of or questions that our people need to explain to us so we can know that we're safe over there. But here, the ammunition I wanted to give you before I give you my thanks. Now that the CPP has started expedient to go to the Supreme Court, there is a real issue that I thought that we should pursue with the Supreme Court. Every Liberian, the code of conduct setting requirements for political leaders and how they can get involved in government so as not to use public resources to enhance their positions.
Why don't we have a whole show about that topic?
Okay, we can do that. But I wanted to call your attention to that because that's a clear issue that the code of conduct has not been implemented. The ombudsman has not been set up. That law says clearly that no public official is supposed to be a manager of a political campaign activity. So extension is you can have your young picking like Jefferson Koje, mayor of the city of Monrovia, at the same time Secretary General of the political party. So those are the kind of things we need to clamp down on and call the Supreme Court to. So I just wanted to say that, but we can discuss it in a much bigger forum. But I really appreciate that you both will come to give real substance to this discussion, and I appreciate it. I will look forward to other meetings. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot. This has been another edition, our 7th of Election Central. I hope you did enjoy it, and you guys have a good rest of the Sunday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You are where you fit die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Will you fight for me? Even if now Kokano, take a ride with me. Because anybody to move Ferranto. Oh baby, promise me the world, because nothing is too much. You know that I want to be the one way to die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you no weakness, baby.